Hello everyone, Wade from High Tech Legion here, and with over 1,000 videos uploaded, if you haven't seen it here, you may not have seen it anywhere. So what we're going to be looking at in this video is an overview of the BitFenix Prodigy M small form factor case. It fits M-ITX and Micro-ATX motherboards in it, and being a small form factor case, sometimes the installation can be a little bit tricky, so definitely stay tuned for the component installation video that we'll also be doing on the Prodigy M. So, without further ado, we've got the BitFenix Prodigy M case behind us, and as you can see, we've got a nice mesh front panel here with the BitFenix logo and space for one 5¼ inch drive bay. So here's a little bit closer look of the front panel of the case, in case you're interested. And you can see we've got some handles here as well that we can carry the case by. The BitFenix logo again, and some mesh panel, as well as a spot for a 5¼ inch drive. On the side of the case, you've got your front panel with two USB 3.0 ports, a headphone jack and audio jack in, a reset button, and a power button. So on the rear of the case here, we've got our I/O panel, as well as the plug for our power supply, which is actually on an extension because the power supply fits into the front of this case. We've got 5 expansion slots here, our 4 thumb screws that hold on these side panels, as well as a thumb screw here to release the PCI slot, expansion slot holder here, and a mount here that can hold both a 120mm fan or 140mm fan. This does come standard with a 120mm fan mounted here already. So now let's take a look at the top. So the top of the case actually has a mesh panel here that pops out. There's a little latch here, and this whole panel pops out so that you can clean your filter. But you also have spots here to mount 220mm fans or up to a 240mm radiator here. Then the last part of the exterior here is the bottom, which you can see we actually have our spot for our power supply here. The power supply mounts vertically in this case, and the power goes where the power plug on it goes to the back here, and here's your connection for your extension that hooks up in the back of the case. You also have a magnetic cover here that comes off, and you can see that we expose space for fans, including a 230mm fan maximum here, and we do have a 120mm fan installed by default here in the bottom of the case. So I've taken the side panel off of the case so that we can take a look at the interior. One of the first things you're going to notice is that you've got your connectors here for your front panel, which are unpluggable, but you've got your HD audio, your AC97 audio, a hard drive LED and power LED, as well as your USB 3.0 connector. They do include an adapter for the USB 3.0 to convert it to USB 2.0 if your motherboard for some reason is not capable of running USB 3.0. You've also got 2 mounts here for 2.5 inch drives right on the side panel. This main bracket here is where your hard drives can be installed. There's 4 screws here that can be removed. This whole bracket can come out, and then you can install 2 3.5 inch drives on the rear of it. You can also install 3 2.5 inch drives on this side of it. One on the top, one in the middle, and one on the bottom. We've got our power supply mount here, which the power supply installs by taking the thumb screw out, pulling the bracket out, and you can install that right onto the power supply, slide it back in, and put the thumb screw back down. And then we can see a little bit better our fan mounts in here, which We can see that 120 millimeter fan that's mounted in there. There's also room for a second 120 millimeter fan in the back of this, and like I said, you could have also a 230 millimeter fan in place on the bottom as well. You also can see here on the back of the chassis where our 120 millimeter fan is mounted, and this also can support up to 140 millimeter fan. Like I said before, you've got 220 millimeter spots in the top. You've also got your 5¼ inch drive bay mount here, so if you want to have an optical drive, you have the option for that as well. I'm going to pull off the other side panel and just show you the back of the motherboard tray so that you can see how much room is there, as well as the heatsink cutout and everything. So if we take a look at the other side of the case here, we can see we have a nice large heatsink cutout here for accessing the back of our motherboard. We also have some space here for doing our cable routing, and there is a little bit of room here to put cables behind the motherboard tray as well. Not a lot, but definitely a little bit that you can use. You can also see that they've got the motherboard standoffs already pre-installed for the M-ITX board. A couple last things that I just want to show you real quick is the front panel does come off and is required to come off to install your 5¼ inch drive. There are 4 clips right on the inside that you use to pop the 4 clips here. That pops the front panel off, and you can pull this blank out after you've popped it out. You also have another blank here, which is replaceable. If you take it out, you can put 2 screws in to hold it back in place if you decide not to use it. As you can see a little bit better, this is where our extra fan mounts are. Like I said, you wouldn't really be able to use these unless you're using a specialized power supply maybe that is a very small form factor, or if you get creative with some modding and find a way to put your power supply somewhere else. I also just wanted to show you real quick, we've got the BitFenix Spectra Pro LED 140 millimeter fan here, which could fit into the rear of your case, no problem. And you've also got the BitFenix Spectra Pro LED 230 millimeter fan, which could go in the front or on the bottom of this chassis. So you've definitely got a lot of different cooling options here that this thing is capable of providing if you wanted to fool around with cooling to see if you can optimize it even better. So let's take a look at the benchmarks for how this case performed temperature wise with a 4770K Intel system installed into it, and then we'll take a look at the accessories. So for accessories, you get the quick installation guide with the Prodigy M. You also get a USB 3.0 to USB 2.0 adapter that I talked about earlier. You have some zip ties to help you with your cable management. And you also have your various screws and standoffs to install everything into place, as well as some rubber grommets for anti-vibration of the hard drives and a standoff installation tool. I hope you all enjoyed this overview of the BitFenix Prodigy M small form factor chassis. For the full review, please see www.hightechlegion.com, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages. Also, we'll be posting the component installation video for the Prodigy M, so definitely check that out, and take care.